Good morning. It is February the 23rd, and it is sleeting profusely outside this morning. I'm so glad that we were able to work remotely today. It would have been quite a mess. I have opened the Google Classroom, and you'll do the same. So we're working in linear perspective, okay? You're doing a 2-point linear perspective drawing of a house, okay? You've gone through a whole packet of linear perspective drawings, guided drawings to help you learn how to draw using 1-point and 2-point perspective. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about the culture where linear perspective evolved from, okay? So I want to share a little bit with you about the early Renaissance period of art. Now, yesterday, if you were in class, I gave you a handout, and that handout was a study guide for the early Renaissance period, and it has 10 images in it, and those images you will be required to write 5 facts about: the title of the artwork, the name of the artist, the culture is going to be early Renaissance, and then 3 additional facts, okay? So if you weren't in class yesterday, those are online. They're in Google Classroom. I'll show you where to find them. So we'll go into our classroom. You'll click Classwork. You're going to scroll down all the way to the bottom because right now we're in the unit space, all right? And as you know, when we miss class and we're working remotely, I put the date in front of the activity or assignment, okay? So you'll go down to the bottom, you will click View More, and you'll see Early Renaissance lecture slides, and you'll see the Early Renaissance study guide. If you don't have the study guide, click this link, and I have it in a PDF file. Again, the instructions are right here. Write 5 facts for each slide image in the attached file below. So these are the images, and this shows the color version. I printed a black and white copy for you that you took home in class, but you can refer to this online version as well because it has all of the images in color that we are going to take notes on that are required for this section, okay? Now, if you can't print this off and you weren't at school yesterday and you don't have an actual copy, you can write notes in a Google document, and you don't have to have the image to take the notes, okay? The image is just for extra guidance for you. All right, now let's go ahead and go back. I'm going to go ahead and shut that out. I'm going to go ahead and click on the lecture slides, and we'll start our lecture for today. So here's the PowerPoint. Now, if you click Open with Google Slides, then you'll actually be able to see my notes under each image. If you don't, you're only going to see the images. You're not going to see the notes, okay? So I would advise you to open this PowerPoint with Google Slides. And then over here on the left, you can see the thumbnail view of each slide, and you can scroll down, and at the bottom, hover over the bar at the bottom, you'll see a hand, and you can raise it and make the image smaller, but then you can see the notes. These are the notes that I lecture from. I spent many hours going through different books and resource material to write the notes for all of these images and the study that we're about to dive into. So let's do that. So we're going to talk about early Renaissance art, and we're going to take a look at, first we're going to start with the late Gothic period, which it's called the Proto-Renaissance. It's the period basically before the early Renaissance, all right? So basically, here is a map of Italy, and Italy is the country that, where the Renaissance began, okay? During this time period, we're talking about the period from between the 13th and the 16th centuries, essentially. Italy wasn't a country yet, and so each city was its own city-state, and cities might war against each other. For instance, we'll make it more practical. If someone from Seminole came to Wewoka and stole a bunch of the cattle from Wewoka, then the city of Wewoka might rise up and take up arms against the city of Seminole, okay? And they would march over there and take the cattle back. That's basically, the cities would war and fight against each other, and they would build big walls around their cities and fortresses so that if an invading group came in, they could protect themselves better, okay? That's what you do. You protect your borders, all right? That's what you should do if you don't want to be invaded. One thing I do need to do, let me go ahead. I want to make sure that I have a really small screen that you can actually see my screen through. I want to make sure that I have the right boundaries on that. Okay, let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about this. Tell you what, I'm a little nervous that when I go into slideshow view, you're not seeing the entire scope of what I need you to see. So I'm going to go ahead and keep it in this view. Okay, now what we're going to do is talk a little bit about, notice this is a peninsula. This is the Italian peninsula. A peninsula is covered by water on three sides, and this is known, the shape of the peninsula, it kind of looks like a boot. This is called the boot of Italy. So you see like the front of like a boot in profile, the front of a toe, and then the heel. This is the island of Sicily, and then this is another island over here to the left. So Venice is in northern Italy, and basically port cities are going to be cities right next to the water, and lots of different countries bring in materials, spices, weavings, goods to be sold, and they ship out lots of materials to take back to their countries from Italy and other places. So due to the eastern port cities of Venice and Ravenna, Italy was accessible to Byzantine influences during the 11th and the 12th centuries. So there was a major shift in Western European art around the turn of the 13th century. The name given to this period of Italian history is known as the Renaissance, okay, and that's what we're going to talk about. And the word Renaissance, it's a French word. It means rebirth, all right? Now, there was a revival of interest in ancient Greek and Roman texts during this period. And when you think of ancient Greece, you think of, hopefully, some of the philosophers, such as Aristotle and Plato and Pythagoras. There's a lot of different philosophers from that time period. So their ideas and their thoughts about human nature and man's existence, those were all written down in texts. And a lot of the knowledge from ancient Greece and ancient Roman culture were lost. So there's like over 1,000 years that have passed from those early times, known as the Middle Ages. And a lot of the information and the knowledge that was gained during the ancient Greek and Roman period was lost during the Middle Ages, okay? But the Renaissance is a rebirth of that time period. A lot of people start digging and they find things in the ground. They find ancient ruins, sculptures, artwork. They find ancient cities, architecture. They dig them out of the earth. They find ancient texts, okay? Now, it's a fascinating period to study for sure. So there was a revival of interest in ancient Greek and Roman text and culture. And basically, since Rome is in Italy, okay, what better place could there for a revival to begin? All right. So there was economic prosperity and a coincident sense of competition among patrons and artists, and newfound awareness of the natural and the secular world. So this is a good time to come into things. All right. Now we're going to look at the artwork of Andrea Pisano. Now Pisano's birthplace, he was, here, give me just a second. I have to move over to a different place in my notes. There was a Nicola Pisano, there was a Giovanni Pisano, and they were sculptors. But Andrea Pisano, he was not related to those two artists. Andrea was commissioned by the city of Florence to make bronze doors for the baptistry of the Florence Cathedral. And if you remember, when we looked at Brunelleschi, he did an experiment and he drew the baptistry of the Florence Cathedral. It's an octagonal shaped building. You guys remember that from the video. Now, Andrea Pisano is going to make doors for that baptistry. And so, according to the art historian Vasari, who lived from 1511 to 1574, he documented a lot of the art that was going on during this time period. He went to Florence to work on the west facade of the Duomo. A Duomo, D-U-O-M-O, that's another word for a church, okay? It's an Italian word. That had been designed by Giotto, who was a friend of Pisano, and we're going to talk more about Giotto. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at, here is the south door of the baptistry of the Florence Cathedral. This is the door that Pisano designed. Now, Giotto recommended the commission of the south doors to be given to Pisano in 1329. It was the first commission of doors. Two would follow. Two more sets of doors are going to follow. Now look at how tall this door is. It's 17 feet tall. You can see in the image there's a guy right there. There's a man in the image, okay? I selected this image so you could get an idea of the scale of how tall these doors really are. Now, Lorenzo Ghiberti would win both of the commissions for the next two sets of doors that are to be built. The doors to the south entrance of the baptistry, and let's see, there were originally installed, this door that you see on the south entrance, it was originally installed on the east side of the building, but they moved it in 1452, and it's been on the south side ever since, okay? 3 years after the doors were originally installed, Giotto died and Pisano became the architect of the church. In 1347, he was appointed the Master of Works at Orvieto Cathedral. So Pisano's theme for the design of the baptistry doors basically is the life of John the Baptist. And John the Baptist was obviously related to Jesus, and they were in ministry together, and John carried on the ministry of Christ. Now, I'm going to go ahead and break here because the first 15 minutes of this video is about to expire, and we'll carry on with our lecture in the next 15-minute video.